All right, everyone. Hello, good morning, afternoon, and thank you so much for joining me today on the first After Effects-based Daily Creative Challenge. Did I say After Effects-based? On the first After Effects Daily Creative Challenge here on Adobe Live. Sorry I didn't have my intro video. For whatever reason, it decided not to play for me today, but that's okay. We'll have that back for you tomorrow. In any case, over the next 5 days, over about 27 minutes, we're going to cover 5 different techniques in After Effects. This is meant for beginners, and this is an experiment because if you've never looked into After Effects before, or if you're not aware of what After Effects is, first and foremost, it is our motion graphics and visual effects application as part of Creative Cloud. It is an industry standard and has been for over 30 years now. And in a lot of ways, I used to say back in the day, After Effects is kind of like the best bits of Photoshop and Illustrator, but on enormous amounts of caffeine. And by that I simply mean you're still working with images. In fact, it'll work perfectly with vector or with raster. It'll work with type, it'll work with 3D, it'll work with all different types of elements and things and images that you use in Photoshop and Illustrator, but you're bringing them to life. You're making them move over time. So a lot of the same concepts, a lot of the same, like using blend modes, and a lot of the same keyboard shortcuts and things are very similar. If you've ever done animation in Photoshop, the same type of keyframing animation exists in After Effects. So this may not be too terribly scary, but there is a little bit of a learning curve. So this is really an experiment for us today too, to see how you do on day one, just navigating the interface. Now we don't have a lot of time to waste. We're only gonna do one task today, and it's simple. I've tried to make it as easy as possible, but we've got a lot to do. So let's do a couple of quick shout outs. Of course, we're coming to you live on Behance, YouTube, and Twitter Periscope, so thank you so much for joining. I can see we've got Dan Ross and Tim and Ted and Christian and Ferry and Reverb Mike and Rick Adams and Kathleen and Space Kitten, what's happening, and Taboka and Bruce and Dorina, Susan Wilson, good morning, Rufus, how's it going, Valdair, Umacorn, Jason, I saw we've got Gus in there as well, and Irvin, and we've got Dez and Nibiju and Just Devin over on Twitter Periscope, and Ilan E, hello. How are you? Nice to see you. And I want to remind everybody, of course, we're having chats happen in lots of different places, but if you want to be part of the conversation, the chat that I will be following directly is this one here, there, Adobe Live, b.net/Adobe Live. So if you want to ask me a question, as I'm going through this, that's where you want to post it because that's the one I'll see. Now, if you're on my channel, I'll be able to look at these after the fact, so if you can stick around, I can answer some stuff there a couple minutes after the stream is over. You'll also, of course, be able to watch these replays even if you don't catch everything, or if you miss something, or if you need to go back and reference, you'll be able to watch these things. Okay, now, before we get started, of course, many of you might be new to this today, and you're going, where can I get started with the challenge? Well, let me go ahead and switch over my screen here. And this is where you want to go. Behance.net/challenge/Premiere. Now, sorry for that if that's confusing, because we started this whole thing with Premiere Daily Creative Challenges. This is, in fact, the Video and Motion Creative Challenge. Gus and I decided that it probably needed a little bit of a retitle because it includes more than Premiere now. You've also done Rush in there. So it's the Video and Motion Creative Challenge. And again, we're going to be doing this all week. And this is where you can now sign up, receive notifications, but where you will also begin to unlock and download all of the assets that you need for the given day's challenge. So as you can see here today, it's replace a video background. You can get started and do all of that. Now, as we're going through all of this, of course, there's a community chat that's happening over at Discord. And if you're not already signed up for the Discord, you must do this. This is an incredible community that we've cultivated since April when this all started. It's just awesome, okay? This is also where you're going to post the videos that you create today, which I'm going to show you how to do that as well in After Effects. So bit.ly/PR Discord, sign up for the Discord, become part of the conversation, and you'll be glad that you did. It's a really super awesome community of your peers, of people doing like things, and just people trying stuff out and asking questions. So this is how we're going to get started with all this today. Discord, behance.net/challenge/Premiere. So with that, friends, let's kick it off, shall we? Ferry, it's your very first time. That is great to hear. Robzilla, what's up? Philip Allen, you did think this would be about Premiere. I mean, yes, apologies. It's the After Effects Premiere Pro Daily Creative Challenge, sponsored by Adobe Live. Yes, noise, Space Kitten. That's hilarious. I was just watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so if you like that, I was just saying noise myself. And you have more fun over here at Beyonce. Yes, Reverb Mike, because that is the chat where you should be indeed. Okay, so let's go ahead and launch After Effects, which is what you're going to do. All right, and we're really going to start this process from scratch. Now, I'm just going to tell you, for those of you who are a little bit familiar with After Effects, or maybe not at all, After Effects uses project files. So very conveniently, you can make a project file and store assets in that project file. I didn't do that today because I really wanted to see how well everyone would do just sort of navigating the app and to see how easy it was to just bring in footage, right? So once you download that collection of footage that we gave you from the you'll see a screen that looks very much like this, and then you're simply going to click on the New Project button right here. All right, let's go ahead and click on New Project. And your interface is going to look something like this. Now, the panels may not be exactly the same. Want to point out that we have workspaces up here, just like in Premiere Pro. So I'm in a slightly modified version of our standard workspace. That's largely for broadcasting here on the stream. I recommend starting with the standard workspace. This is going to give you access to pretty much all of the panels that you'll need, and certainly all the panels that you'll need for today's demonstration, okay, for today's challenge. And then the other important thing that I want you to take note of here is in this composition panel. So you will have this docked probably in the center of your screen. And in the composition panel, we have these two buttons here, New Composition from Footage. So to make this real easy, we're going to choose New Composition from Footage. So you're going to go ahead and click on that, and then you're going to navigate to the folder where you downloaded today's challenge assets. Now in here, I put 5 different examples. You can see this is all from Adobe stock, and this includes the green screen footage as well. So what we're working on today is how to remove a video background, and specifically with everybody shooting things a la Zoom style. A lot of people are doing stuff on green screen. Of course, many of us here on Adobe Live use green screens for ourselves, excluding yours truly. But it's really something that everybody's very familiar with. My own kids are shooting all kinds of videos. They got green screens for the holidays. So now it's all about how do you remove that green and how do you make it look good and clean up the edges and just make it look, great. Easily. I don't want to waste any time. So that's what we're going to do. I put 3 examples in here, which will give you slightly different opportunities to play around with this effect, okay? Now, I'm going to show you one more site, actually, before we get started here. Adobe Stock Free, because this is where I acquired this content, but most importantly, you can also grab new content here and submit these as part of your challenges today. You don't have to use my footage if you don't want to. I recommend it. But if you want to go here for other backgrounds and things that you might add behind the green screen footage, stock.adobe.com/free, and in here you can search for whatever it is that you want, photos, vectors, and videos, okay? Almost all of the footage, I have some of my own stuff in here, but almost all of it is from Adobe Stock. All right, so back over here, we're going to start with this Adobe Stock clip of this man under an umbrella. Now, what's interesting and why I chose this footage too is that this was clearly not shot so much on a green screen, or maybe it was, but whoever uploaded this footage replaced the green screen with like a flat green mat, which is visually a little harsh, but it'll work for this example. So what you're going to do is, again, New Composition from Footage. You're going to select this piece of footage. It should say Enable Acceptable Files. Format should show up as QuickTime here, and you're going to import as footage, okay? Oh, and actually, we can even say create comp. I don't know if we need to have that box checked. I want it to create the comp for you. So let's go ahead and check that box and click Open, all right? And when you do that, now what you should see is over in the top left in your project panel, you have 2 things. You have the movie that we imported right here, okay? And then we have the project, the comp itself, the composition, right? Which just takes the name of the footage in this case. Now, if you want to rename that, you can simply right click or control click there and choose rename. All right, and we'll call this green screen umbrella. All right. Now there's one more piece of footage I want you to import here We're not going to use it just yet, but go ahead and double click inside the sort of gray space here in our project panel. And we're going to grab, I think it's this first one here, this longer named file, Adobe Stock Video HD Preview. So this one is an unlicensed piece of stock footage that I grabbed, okay, of some rain. And just go ahead and open that. Oh, and I didn't mean to open that as a composition. Let me, hold on. So just to be clear here, uncheck that box. We're not going to put that in its own comp. So we can uncheck create composition for the rain. That was my bad. We do not want a totally new composition. So now that you have this footage down in your timeline here, all right, you can grab the blue current time indicator or playhead and scrub through to kind of get an idea of what this looks like, all right? And you can sort of see what this is. Now, as you note down in the comp timeline here, as I scrub through this footage, you're going to see that this bar is going to start to turn green. What that means is that After Effects is caching these frames. After Effects must cache frames in order to play them back for you in real time. So I can also space, and once it caches everything, now you can see we're playing in real time. And actually, you can't see it here because I'm hidden over top of it, but in the info panel, it'll tell you that it's playing all, 264 frames at 24 FPS in real time from RAM, okay? There's also a preview button in the preview panel right here. You see the shortcut for it is the space bar, okay? So this is how you play back your content. You just hit the space bar. That's the same default on every installation of After Effects. Okay, just checking here. So yeah, Space Kitten, you can use assets. We just provide these with you so that you can get started. But for your submission today, I absolutely welcome you to use your own green screen footage and composite something else behind it. Okay, so now we're going to navigate to the Effects and Presets panel. Okay, now again, yours may be in a slightly different location. By the way, if you can't see all of these perfectly well, you can see that I'm resizing the panels. Okay, this all functions like it does in Photoshop and Illustrator. If you're used to our panel schemes, you know how these things work. Okay, you can drag them out and expand them more. So under Effects and Presets, I simply want you to type the word key. Okay, now you should find that it's going to populate or ultimately pull up animation presets. And then the third thing that you should see, I'm going to expand this a little so you can read it, is a preset here called Key Light, Key Cleaner, and Advanced Spill Suppressor. Okay, and if you're using the current version of After Effects, that is exactly what you should see. All right, so you can see I'm going to single click on that. I'm going to click and drag it and drop that right onto my footage. So you see here, I've still got my mouse button depressed. I'm holding down the key. I'm holding that effect. Once I see that plus button, boom, I'm going to let go. And that has now applied this key light effect, which is going to allow us to remove that green from the footage. It's also going to take you and open up, by nature, by default, the Effects Controls panel. So this is where you have the ability now to adjust all the parameters of your green screen key. Now, right away as you look at that, that probably looks ridiculously intimidating, and it is. There are no fewer, if you total all of these up, than around 37 or 40 plus different parameters. Green screen keying, in general, is not super easy, okay? It just isn't. It has a lot to do with really how well the green screen is lit, how well the subject in the foreground is lit, and then, how it's captured, right? This technique, though, that I'm going to show you makes fast work of doing this, and I also have link resources that I'll post in the Discord that go into a little more detail that we won't cover today about how to refine some of the elements of your green screen key, your green screen composite, okay? But this is the real simple and easy method to get you started for today's challenge. By the way, if you don't automatically see the Effects Controls panel in the top left, check in that top panel. Normally, the default is to have your project and the Effects Controls docked there. If you don't see it, you can always open that up here under the Window menu, Effects Controls. So if you don't see that panel, that's where all of your effects will be stored. That's where you can find it, okay? So under the first one here, key light, the first thing we need to do is grab the screen color, all right? So we're going to click the familiar Adobe eyedropper. Now, normally I would say find kind of a neutral flavor of green here, but because the person who shot this video already replaced whatever screen was behind them with just like a flat matte color, you can pick anywhere. So take that eyedropper, find green, and click it. And right away, you should see that green disappear. Now, there are a couple things that need to be fixed here, namely something that's called the spill, right? And you can see it here. You've got this kind of green fringe around everything, okay? Maybe it's a little more present in some areas, but obviously that's not going to work. And you might think, well, how bad is it? Well, you can see as we kind of start moving around and there's some motion blur, I mean, it starts to get pretty bad. Okay, now again, this is something which would normally take a lot of time to fix. But in this effect, we already have something in here enabled called Key Cleaner. So this is going to fix kind of the harsh edges around your green screen key. We're not going to focus on making any changes to that today because all of these examples are leveraging the Key Cleaner and it looks pretty good. Again, you can go to my other training video, which I'll put in Discord to give you more details around that. The one that I want you to do to enable though here is this advanced spill suppressor, which you can see is currently turned off. I'm simply going to enable this by checking the box right here, and look at that. The green is gone. Before, turn it off, yikes. After, turn it on. Completely neutralized, completely moved. Do some things here, be like, oh, cool. I wonder, there's this drop down here, Ultra, what does this do? Okay, so just real quickly, because again, if you're doing this at home, you may have a different experience here. Sometimes the fringe, the spill that's on your character isn't the exact hue of green. In fact, again, if it's not lit completely evenly, it's oftentimes a lighter green, maybe a darker green. So when you go into Ultra method, this now gives you a totally new setting with an independent eyedropper to select the key color of that spill. And then you'll have separate controls for tolerance, desaturation, range, correction, and luma, okay? We're not going to go into these right now because again, I'll let you experiment with those. But the point is this will allow you to take a manual selection of color and then adjust the spill suppression just on that, okay? Super cool, super effective. For our purposes today, to get you started with this, the default is standard, and you can see it does a pretty amazing job. And if I just start to play this back now a little bit, I'm going to zoom in on this. I mean, it's shockingly good, okay? It is shockingly, shockingly good. And at this point, really, our basic key is done, okay? So now if we go back to our project panel up here, I had that footage of the rain, the Adobe stock footage. Okay, so I'm now going to take that and drag it down to the composition and place it underneath our man with the umbrella. So now that footage is behind him. Now it's not exactly the same size. So with the layer selected down here, I'm going to have you hit the shortcut key S for scale, okay? And you're simply going to take this text, and you'll notice my cursor turns into this little hot text as I hover over it, and I can simply click and adjust the scale, and you can see I can scale it up to make it fit like that, hit my space bar to play, and just like that, we've got some rain on our character, all right? Super easy, super cool. All right, let's take a look here. Elevation Allah, I'm about to get evil, uh-oh. Valdair, amazing, Space Kitten, whoop, whoop. Rubbing my hands, Ruchika, wow, all right. Jason Rose, shocked. Space Kitten, overload for my mind, yes. Ultra, Rufus remembers Ultra. Okay. Stefan, does Premiere have this feature? Now, curiously, Premiere does have the Ultra keyer. It does not have Key Light. Key Light is actually, it's an effect that we license from another company that we've had in After Effects for years. And it's actually won Oscars. Like, it's used on Oscar films and productions. So Key Light is actually an industry standard for green screen keying and compositing, all right? Now, this is super cool. Now, just one other thing real quickly here, because we've only got 5 more minutes. I want to show you one more example of something. And again, you can play around with these. Specifically, I gave you 2 additional examples to work with different skin tones and different types of hair and opacity issues that you may encounter with hair. So let me see. Oh, you know what? Do I have? Here we go. Okay, this one. So we've got 2 people talking here. And this one is interesting because, again, there's already some blur. Again, the shot wasn't a particularly great shot in the first place. The focus was a little soft and a little strange, but there's strands of hair here which can be sometimes problematic. So we're going to do the same thing. On this particular clip, I'm going to grab my preset, drop it on there, select the green. Okay, now it looks pretty good. We're going to take the advanced spill suppressor, again, neutralize that green. I mean, that in and of itself is just freaking amazing, right? And it removes, it's just like decontaminate colors when you do select and mask in Photoshop, right? Are you with me? Who's watching this going, this reminds me of decontaminate colors? Yes, okay? Now, I'm going to show you one other thing here. Again, I'll give you more links to this in Discord later today. You'll notice that we have this thing here called intermediate result. If you go down into screen matte, all right, and then you twirl down the screen matte selection here, if you notice areas where you're seeing these areas here should be completely opaque. There shouldn't be any transparency, but we were getting a little transparency in the white areas. So you can adjust clip white to work with some transparency, bleed that you may be experiencing, as well as clip black to ensure that you're, kind of getting all of the edges and everything nice and smooth as they should be. Again, being mindful of any kind of transparent edges. And then you have the ability here to shrink and grow the matte, all right, adjust the softness and other things. Just make sure you take it back to intermediate result when you're done. Now, just on that, when you're done, how are we going to get this out so you can share it with Discord? Okay, this is a little tricky, but here's what you're going to do. File, export, add to Adobe Media Encoder Q. File, export, add to Adobe Media Encoder Q. You will also want to make sure that your composition is selected, okay? So the one that you want to export, make sure you've selected it down here in the timeline. Now, I didn't have Media Encoder open. It's opening right now. So what's going to happen is it's going to open in the background, okay? And it's actually going to send this composition to Media Encoder to be rendered. Give it a second. This can take a moment. Now it just launched Media Encoder. I'm waiting for this to populate this field right here as I watch my time count down because we've got 3 minutes. Okay, it's in here. Awesome. Okay, here's what you're going to do. Pay very close attention. This first drop-down menu right here is your format. For your format, you are going to choose H.264 and be done. Now, it should default to match source high bit rate, okay? It should. If not, click on the down arrow. It is the first option here, match source high bit rate, okay? And then from there, all you need to do is click on output file and just tell it where you want it to go. So I'm placing it right on the desktop, and it's called Green Screen Umbrella. Now, if you want to upload this directly to Discord, this footage needs to be less than 8 megabytes in file size. So your high bitrate option may not do that for you. Maybe you need to go to medium bitrate. Also, if you want to keep things really kind of small, you can try something like the YouTube presets down here, like 720p HD. All right, don't go to the SD ones because these have different aspect ratios, but 720p HD would be another option for you. What I recommend when sharing these to the Discord is embed them preferably from Twitter, from Facebook, from Instagram, from YouTube, okay? Because they don't have those same file size limits. Discord is going to limit you to 8 megabytes. So if you're having trouble exporting your footage, again, maybe this is something we'll cover tomorrow, but try the match source high and medium bitrate ones, and those should do it for you to keep these kind of small. The footage is pretty small, but again, I recommend embedding, all right? So, just real quickly, I'm going to go ahead and open up let me open up this other project. So, just to kind of show you a finished little fun version that I did. So here's the same one. Now, I didn't license that footage, so you still see the Adobe stock watermark there. But you can see I've added a little color correction All right, so just a little bit of grading here. There's the before, kind of too bright, kind of took the edge off, did a little bit of curves manipulation. I also added some additional rainfall effects via something we have in here called CC Rainfall. So if I turn those off, oh, you're only seeing the white solid now, sorry. This was the rain from the video that we downloaded from Adobe Stock, but it didn't look quite real because you can see it's behind him, right? It's not hitting the front of his face or like his hand as his hand went out from over the umbrella. So I'll show you how to, we're gonna do this on Thursday, but if you wanna get creative here, now you can see that the rain is, you know, in front of him as well as behind him. So it just kind of helps to sell that, you know, even more. Just have in the folder with this backdrop as well. Again, this is something else that I worked on for you to show you just kind of another example of using some cool green screen key. Again, different types of different edging on this character, so you may need to work with that screen mat a little bit more. There's so many options, so many things you can do, but I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with. I'll be chatting with all of you in the Discord today. So until then, have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. I will see you tomorrow for day 2 of the DCC here using After Effects. Have a great one, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.